Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. It was another big day at the White House. The Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, the big guest today. You just saw the press conference. It just ended. India has a massive trade imbalance with the United States. We buy $45 billion more from their country than they buy from us every year, and that's something that the president doesn't like. You hear him talk about it a lot. But despite that, Modi and Trump have been friends since Trump's first term. They like each other. Modi's visit comes as Trump, though, signs an executive order telling his trade staff to determine reciprocal tariffs on all U.S. trading partners, including India. The tariffs are not yet imposed. They would match whatever other countries are doing to us, right? That's reciprocal. But they're not yet imposed because this threat is designed to simply force other nations to end their tariffs on American products, and then we can have truly free trade. If that were to happen, it will dramatically strengthen our economy. We would see a manufacturing and an international business boom in this country. But Trump's plan does come with a threat of inflation if these tariffs have to be imposed. So it is politically risky. There's no denying that. But it's being done because it's the right thing to do. These are the hard choices that no other politician is willing to make in Washington, because all they care about is their political career and how much money they can get. Trump admitting that this move could come with short-term pain today, but in the end, the country will be better off. Take a listen.
I think our farmers are going to be helped. Jobs are going to be helped, but our farmers are going to be helped. Our manufacturers are going to be helped. And again, if somebody wants to come in, including the car companies, if they want to come in and build car plants, they'll do it without tariffs, and therefore prices won't go up. There could be some short-term disturbance, but long-term, it's gonna make our country a fortune.
So the United States produces a fraction of what it once did. As we all know, the decimated blue-collar Rust Belt states that gave Trump his first presidency are the perfect example of the collapse of the American working class. And that decline is a national security vulnerability as well. What do we do as a country if we suddenly have a world war and international trade is all but impossible? We don't make a lot of stuff here anymore. Nobody else in Washington is thinking about any of this. They just are complaining right now about the price of eggs. As far as tariffs, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick made it very clear. Again, the goal is to open up free trade with our partners who have taken advantage of us for a very long time. Nations that refuse or heavily tariff the things that we make.
We'll hand the president the opportunity to start on April 2nd if he wants. So I think we'll be ready to go on April 1st, and we'll hand it to the president, and he'll make his decisions. But remember, if they drop their tariffs, prices for Americans are coming down. Our production's going up, and our costs are going down. Remember, it's a two-way street. That's why it's called reciprocal.
So he says, right, April 1st, but remember, if they drop theirs, then it doesn't happen. They're manipulating things. They're trying to use this as a tactic, and it's pretty smart. The president blasting the European Union for VAT taxes and for hammering our airlines with heavy fees to land today. He also went after Canada, again reminding Americans just how much we are subsidizing our friends to the north.
Canada is going to be a very interesting situation because, we just don't need their product. And yet they survive off the fact that we do 95% of what they do. Why would we pay $200 billion a year in subsidies to Canada when they're not a state? You do that for a state, but you don't do that for somebody else's country. So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
Keeps making that dig at Canada. And the president's America First crusade continued into foreign diplomacy and war as well today. Trump wants the Ukraine war to end immediately and says he'll meet with both Putin and Zelensky to make that happen. And as his detractors scream that he's bowing to a dictator, claiming that he's Putin's puppet, much like they mocked his love letters to Kim Jong-un. Trump gave us a look at what the real plan is. He wants to bring in our adversaries closer to disarm them. He sees a world with less war and much more global prosperity.
The meeting I want to have first is a meeting with China and a meeting with Russia on slowing down, stopping, and reducing nuclear weapons in particular, and also on not having to spend the kind of money we're all spending on weapons, military weapons generally.
I think my question is, would you have those meetings separately with each of those leaders, or would you try to bring them all together?
Both. You start off separately, and that's what was happening. I was dealing with President Putin. We had really an understanding where we were going to denuclearize. What a beautiful term that is, right? Denuclearize. What a great thing if we could do that. And we were going to, he really liked the idea, and so did I. And we had then called China, and China was very open to it.
Denuclearize, spending less on defense, a different look at how things could be, a completely different look at the world. And again, this is why he's a political hybrid. You don't hear that very often from war hawk Republicans. An outsider who sees senseless killing and actually wants to see it end. Trump wants to de-escalate the tension all around the world, and he's willing to use a lot of different tools to do it. The same as they're doing in the Middle East, right? They're using commerce and the tension between Israel and the Arab states. He wants to de-escalate the tension with China and Russia, two adversaries, using diplomacy, bring them in closer. We don't need to fight like this. Trump said something today that American war hawks will slay him over, claiming that Biden and an over-aggressive NATO courting Ukraine are why this 3-year-old Ukraine war started in the first place. They don't like to hear those kinds of things in Washington. The warmongers, watching how he's been handling Putin over the last several days, are enraged by all of this. Here's John Bolton.
You believe Putin sees Trump as what you described as an easy mark. You were there for their first meeting in Helsinki. What are your expectations for this one?
Well, I don't have any expectations anymore. I think I surrendered to Putin before the negotiations have even begun.
Yeah, John Bolton's not going to be happy until we're trading nuclear bombings with Moscow. But if Trump is surrendering to Putin, as Bolton says, why is he also at the same time pressuring our allies all across Europe, the neighbors of Vladimir Putin, to dramatically increase their defense spending? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Our defense secretary said it right to their faces today in Munich.
Leaders of our European allies should take primary responsibility for defense of the continent, which means security ownership by all allies, guided by a clear understanding of strategic realities, and it's an imperative given the strategic realities that we face. And that begins with increasing defense spending. 2% is a start, as President Trump has said, but it's not enough. Nor is 3%, nor is 4%, more like 5%.
That sound like surrendering to Vladimir Putin? Is that what we would be doing? They can't get over Russiagate. They still can't get over it. Or perhaps using a tactic people like John Bolton despise, using that tactic makes them despise it because it makes their entire mindset obsolete. John Bolton's entire worldview is now obsolete as these kinds of methods work. Think about how many people thought they were right for such a long time, only to find out that they were just embarrassingly wrong. And they've hung their entire careers and their livelihoods on the way that they think, and they find out that they're wrong. 30 years of being an expert is out the window. There's reporting today that Zelensky is telling Trump Putin is pretending to want peace because he's afraid of you. Again, the idea that Trump is capitulating to Vladimir Putin, does that seem realistic, or does he just want to see an end to this ridiculous war, no matter how it has to get done? If a slice of Ukraine has to go back to Russia, whatever it is, if it means that 250,000 young men don't die next year, it's probably worth it. You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us, we're different. We report the real news, no spin, just the facts. Turn to us and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt Tonight on Newsmax.